it up. Freak show, freak show. I'm going back to my roots, where my love can.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daily Freak Show, James St. James. I'm here with the legendary legend. I'm here with RuPaul right here, one of my oldest friends.
I met you, I think, in '84.
I know exactly when it was. I have it. It's burned in my memory. It was the New Music Seminar. Okay, and do you want to tell the people what you were wearing, or shall I?
I don't remember what I was doing. I mean, I always wore so many crazy things because I was doing the sort of new romance, glam, punk, Thunderdome.
Well, if that's what you want to call it, girl. I'm just gonna say right now that you were in a pair of waders. Okay, you had rubber waders up to about here. You had on football shoulder pads with mylar streamers coming off of it. You had the mohawk. You had the little love things written on your face, right? And your nip-la-de-doos just waving in the wind, and you ran up to Michael Musto and me with all the energy of I don't know. I've never. It was a force of nature. You came up, you introduced yourself. You said, "I'm RuPaul. I'm going to be famous." Like that, just did the little tap dance, everything, and then ran off. And Michael Musto and I looked at each other with our mouths hanging open, and we both said that we are going to see that one again.
Yes, and you did. And I was, we'd all come up to New York to take New York by storm. And in those days, you could become a star via the downtown scene. You really could do it.
Well, that's exact. I read Edie when I was like 14 years old. I read Andy Warhol's Popism, and by God, that's what I was doing. I went to New York to meet Andy Warhol to become a downtown superstar.
We all did. In fact, because of Interview magazine, we knew there was a scene happening, and there was an entree. If you were clever enough, if you were unique enough, you could get in there with the cool people. And that's really what happened.
One of the most important things to happen to me, to lead me to discovering that I had more to give, was I was mentored very early on by, I always give shout out to Michael Musto, to Steven Sabin, who really, both of them took me under their wings at a very young age and showed me how fabulous it was. You could be a writer, you could be fabulous. I thought writers were mousy little people who lived in the back rooms, and they really showed me that there was a whole world out there that I could do more. Did you have anyone that took you under their wing?
That's a really good point you bring up, because there were several of these fabulous people who showed me that there's another way to skin a chicken, and you can have a fabulous life, exactly what you said. And I have to say, Dick Richards in Atlanta, Georgia, who was the best friend and grew up with Nelson Sullivan in New York, who was our New York.
Is this Fun Tone Records? Is it
Records? Yeah. And of course, Nelson, and these were gay men who really, they weren't doing any hanky-panky with us kids. They were literally mentoring us, and there isn't enough of that today. I guess because I don't know if it's politically correct, or I don't know if To Catch a Predator is so popular that you don't get to, bring the new kids along. But it's so important. And without these men, I wouldn't have known the gay history. I wouldn't have known the history of films and literature and beauty and art. And it was such an important part of my development.
It's that because gay history wasn't taught in colleges and stuff. That was how it has traditionally always been done. That there have been mentors. I know last night when I showed Constance that picture of Doris Fish. Doris Fish was her drag mother. Doris had taken her and said, "Girl, you don't have any hair. That is the luckiest thing. You need to start doing drag." And she introduced her to it. And I think that there's always a history of that in there. I always try now. I'm always all teach the children. And so
that's a point in Paris is Burning that comes out loud. Great. It's great because these houses, they become the parents, the father of the house or the mother of the house, and they're the children. And it's so important for that because a lot of kids don't have that in their where they come from.
You are sort of at a point now in your life where you are the queen mother of drag. You have reached the point where you are like an eminent degree. Yes, you are a force to be reckoned with.
Well, that's what RuPaul's Drag Race is really all about. We are mentoring a new generation of young kids, and these girls are legendary. They're this, and they were chosen because they had the potential to be legendary. They were legendary. So, you know, it's a really great opportunity for not only these girls, but for young people who've never seen drag in this way before. I mean, drag has gone underground, had gone underground the whole Bush administration. So we are bringing it back and placing it in its rightful place in our culture and showing people how important it is. Because I've said it before, you're born naked and the rest is drag. And when you understand that you have the opportunity to play with all the colors in the crayon box, you can have such a fulfilling life. And these are the things we learned from our mentors. You can create your life, and that's what RuPaul's Drag Race is all about.
A lot of the girls were saying that you know, that you were their inspiration when they were growing up. I hate when someone says, "I used to see you when I was 5 years old." I just want to punch them in the face. But it's true. You know, you were a legend to them growing up, and you were an inspiration. Who were some of your inspirations growing up? Who did you look to and want to emulate?
Well, I always loved the outsider. I always loved the dark horse in any situation. So, you know, I loved Cher, I loved David Bowie, I loved Diana Ross. I loved Streisand because she was, you know...
Have you met all of those yet?
I've met them all except for Streisand. I've never met...
Really?
Streisand, no. But all my other idols I've totally met, and it's interesting because you, in essence, have to separate the real person from the image of them and be at peace with that, because you're a human being is a human being and it has all these faults or whatever, but the image is pure and it's beautiful, and you have to respect it. You don't have to force them to be all things at once.
I was saying to Fenton last night, Fenton said, you know, it's okay that Rue wasn't there because the idea of Rue was at the party. And I said, well, you know, sometimes I think that the idea of being with James St. James is better than or like the memory of being with James is better than actually being with James. And is that something to do? Is that sort of something about a star where if you are more, if you are an idea as well as a person, like that's what a star is the idea of a person?
You're absolutely right, because if you know too much about a trick, let's say, and you think, you know, I don't want to be with them again because they're this, or they're Republican, or they're this, or they have whatever. The idea, and that's why this time with Obama and the shift that's happening in our culture is so important, because hope and the idea of hope, or that there could be something better, is a very valuable, tangible thing that you can't put enough importance on it. So, you know, when I was growing up in San Diego, I Interview Magazine, I had Diana Ross and Cher and David Bowie to look up to, and those were my guiding lights, my stars that helped me through some of the really tough times, you know.
I had that Diana Vreeland book, DV, that I got that, and that I carried it with me. I read it whenever people were throwing spit wads at me at school. I would just sit and look at Diana Vreeland, and that got me through it. Listen, we're getting a little serious. I want to go out and talk about some of the gowns out there. I want to walk through some of your fashion history.
I'm going